It's about 11 o'clock a.m. Central Time, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to the webinar. My name is Anna Zilberberg, and I will be your presenter today. If you have any questions as we move along, please save them until the end. We'll have about 5 to 10 minutes to address any questions that you may have. If you prefer to ask me a question privately, or if you just think of a question later on, please feel free to send me an email later on. I will provide the email address at the end of the presentation. You should be able to view the webinar page. It has a big PowerPoint cover slide. I'm hoping that folks are able to view that. And please call in if you haven't already to the conference line. So again, welcome to the preparation strategies for the MTLE webinar. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Anna. Please save your questions till the end. If you're having any technical difficulties, please feel free to send me a chat, and I'll try to resolve your issue. Okay. So today we are going to talk about a few things related to MTLE from the candidate perspective. First and foremost, we'll talk about how to register for the test, and not just the actual process of creating my account, registering for the test, and scheduling your test appointment, but also we will talk about several steps that one needs to take prior to actually registering for the test, the information that one needs to have during registration, and some useful tips for how to follow up after registering for the test. We'll talk about what's on the test. It is crucial to know the test structure before actually sitting for the test. So that's why we'll talk about what's on the MTLE test and where to find that information. We'll talk about what does one need to learn in order to do their best on the test. We'll spend some time taking a look at the sample score report and reviewing the information available there. And then we'll also talk about how one can use that score report in order to prepare to retake the test. And finally, we'll talk about the contact information available to you on the MTLE website. So let's begin. Registering for the test. Before you actually go ahead and register for the test, you first need to figure out what test you need to take for a given licensure. The first page to visit is the Minnesota Department of Education website. It is a very useful website that has a wealth of information about everything related to licensure in Minnesota, and especially the policies surrounding it. But specifically, you will find information there about becoming a Minnesota educator, all kinds of resources about MTLE testing, teacher prep programs, out-of-state applicant information. You may also find out how to apply for a license or renew a license. There's also a program in Minnesota called Licensure via Portfolio. In case you're interested in that, the Minnesota Department of Education would be the place to find out more information about it. And of course, all of the information about special education license can also be obtained there. The link is included here, but of course you can also just Google Minnesota Department of Education and find it that way. Okay, so you'll see that I just pulled up the Minnesota Department of Education homepage. If you click on the licensure page, so the very first tab here called Apply for a License, see this page here. And I'd like to point your attention to the first link provided here, Minnesota Teacher Licensure Testing Information. You see it was recently updated this year, and this is a PDF document. I would recommend that you download this PDF document and save it somewhere that's easily accessible to you. It's a great go-to guide for everything about MTLE, but on a very high level. And it includes links that you can follow in case you need more information about a specific topic. So let's take a look at this document, just see what's available to us there. Okay, I hear that there's a technical issue that you can't see the document. So give me just a minute, I'll try to solve it. Okay, I apologize about that. So once we get to this document now, you should be able to see it. So again, we're on the Minnesota Department of Education. We have to apply for an educator license. And this is the first document that is linked to here, Minnesota Teacher Licensure Information. This is a PDF document. So we save it. Now that's easy for us to find. And let's just take a quick look at what's available to us here. So the first thing is the link to the MTLE website. We'll find this very useful, and we'll spend the majority of our time today on this website. But also it outlines the Minnesota testing requirements. Please note that the requirements are subject to change. So it's a good idea to revisit this document and see if there has been any updates. It also includes passing scores on the required tests. It includes some information about testing accommodation. A list of fields that are not subject to teacher testing requirements. That's useful to know. A note about non-native speaker exemption. Some information for applicants who are deaf. Also some useful guides on what to do if you haven't passed the basic skills test. Also what to do if you have one or more of the content or pedagogy tests that are not yet passed. You can see how this document will be useful to you at the beginning of the process of applying for a license, as well as throughout, as you're taking the test. Some basic info that is located on the MTLE website. Again, just at a glance, how can you prepare for the MTLE test, how to register, what are the computer-based MTLE test offered in Minnesota, and of course the contact information. These tables here are the Minnesota Non-Essential Academic Skills subtests that are required for all initial licenses, and also a list of the pedagogy tests that are required for all initial licenses. So many of you will find this information useful. Again, it has some basic info about the test length, the fee, the format. And similar information is presented for all of the content area tests. Okay. So I encourage encourage you to make use of this document throughout the process. Okay, let's continue on. So another place you're going to want to go before actually registering for the test is, of course, the MTLE website. Here you will see in the lower left corner, there is a link called What Test Do I Need to Take? So in case you haven't figured that out completely yet, by going to the Minnesota Department of Education and other resources, this information is also available to you here. It takes you to this page right here. Again, here you will find an overview of the tests that are needed for various licensure fields. This link right here, the PDF document Minnesota licensure testing requirements, is a subset of a document that I just showed you earlier. Again, some of the information you will find will be repeated, but that's on purpose. That makes it easier to find, and again, the more useful information will be found in various different places for easier reference. Okay, so a couple of other things to do before actually registering for the test. One thing that you may want to do is take a look at the test information. Suppose you figured out that you're applying for the initial license and you need to take the Minnesota MES essential academic skills subtest. It's a good idea to take a look at the information for that test. That will give you an advantage prior to registering. So let's see. So go to the Minnesota MTLE website. If you click on test, and then, for example, let's say that the Minnesota MES is the test of interest. So this page right here provides you some basic information about the test. That's always good to know. Of course, you're going to want to know much more about the test, about the structure and the preparation materials available to it. But this page provides at a glance information that you'd like to refer to prior to registering for the test. Note that Minnesota MES AES is an assessment that consists of 3 subtests: reading, writing, and mathematics. You're going to want to take a look at the important information about these subtests. You can take multiple subtests in one test appointment, or you can take one subtest per test appointment. That is up to you. But it's good to know that it's an option for you. You can see that here, the length of each subtest is indicated. You can also read more about registering for the subtest. Again, that's the same information that you can take multiple or one at a time. The passing score, 520 per subtest. The test types are CBT, which stands for computer-based testing. The test fee is listed here, so that you don't have any surprises when you're registering for the test. You can preview this information. Score report date, that's very useful thing to know prior to registering. By clicking on this link, you will see the score report date. So if you, for example, test between July 4th and 31st, then you can expect your score report to arrive on August 12th, and so on. This is very useful for planning purposes. Okay. Testing policies. That's something that you can review ahead of time too. Alternative testing arrangements. If that is something that you need to apply for, this is the information about how to request alternative testing arrangements. This is where it can be found. In this course, how to prepare for the test. Later on in the presentation, we'll take a look at this link in more detail. Please also note that an option for registering for extended test sessions is available here. If that is what you need, you will need to go on the test page, find this link here, and review the information. Note that the link to register for the extended testing sessions is located here. And as it says, you must use this link to register for the extended testing sessions. Okay, closing the sentence. Another very useful information that is included here, the test date. So what you can do is check seat availability prior to actually registering for the test or scheduling your appointment. So let's take a quick look at how you can do that. So following this link takes you to a different website. So selecting the program of interest here, MTLE. You may find the test that you're interested in. In our hypothetical case, that's the Minnesota NES. Here it is, the last test. So clicking on it. Again, you may review testing policies or exam modules if you wish. And here you can also select which of the subtests you're interested in. Suppose that you would like to take all of them at once, and that you are interested in the test center near Bloomington, Minnesota. Now, of course, you can search by your particular zip code. So here we go. They are presented with several testing centers in Bloomington, Minnesota, where one could take the 3 subtests of the Minnesota NES. You could also compare them. So you could select several. Let's say these 2 are the ones that are most convenient to me. And here you can view available appointment times. Note how it says that before scheduling the appointment, you must first register the test at the program website, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But note how prior to the registering, you can actually see what testing seats are available and where and when. Of course, the availability will change depending on how many subtests you choose. Okay. So this is about availability. If now that we have done that, we can actually go back to registering for the test. As is fairly self-explanatory, we would, of course, click on the register button that is up top on the MTLE website. You will have an option of either creating my account or signing in if you have previously created an account. I'm sure everyone has gone through a similar process before. The forms here will ask for your account information, your email address, and your password. Make sure your password is very secure. A few steps of the actual registration process. So if you haven't already created an account before, the form will take you through several steps. The first is confirmation of your identity. You will be asked for your name, your first name, your last name, your date of birth, your social security number, and your address. Please be very careful when you sort out this information and make sure that the name that you are entering is the name that appears on the legal identification. So if you have recently changed your name, or if you got married, or if you sometimes use your first name and sometimes you use your middle name, just please make sure to enter whatever is the legal name that is listed on your most current identification. That is, of course, very important so that we can link your test passport back to your records. You will be asked for your social security number. Please go ahead and fill that in. I know we're being very careful of not providing social security numbers in forms or over email, but rest assured that this is a very secure form that you're filling out, and that information is needed in order to link your test score information to your records. Then you will be prompted to make your test selection. So at this point, you will be asked what test you would like to take, and you may select from a list of tests. Again, assuming you've done all the prep work, by this point, you should know what tests you need to take and whether you're ready to take them. Next, you will be asked about alternative testing arrangements. You will be just asked to indicate whether or not you're planning on submitting the alternative testing arrangements accommodations. If you're planning on doing that, there are several steps that you will have to take separately, not during the registration process, but later on. And again, there's information about that on the website also. But basically, you will need to review the required documentation. You will need to be registering for the test. You will need to submit your completed alternative testing arrangement request form and any supplemental documentation. And then in about 1 to 3 weeks, you will receive a notification of resolution in your email. And then that email will contain instructions and the phone number that you will need to call in order to schedule your testing appointment. Again, at a glance, those are the steps that one needs to take to request alternative testing arrangements. We can take a look at this process in more detail later if there's interest in it. The next step on the registration process is for you to identify the reporting options. So you will be able to select up to 3 institutions that will be automatically sent to, that the score report will be automatically sent to. You don't have to do that. You can just leave that blank if you wish. But please note that your score reports will be made available to the state. Next, there are several background questions that you will be asked, such as demographic information, such as your gender and ethnicity. There's also a question about whether English is your primary language. There's also a question about your primary educator preparation institution. So that is the institution where you receive the majority of your training. And again, you may find that you may choose to leave that one blank. If, for example, you're pursuing licensure for scholar, or if you're not affiliated with a Minnesota institution. And finally, there's a step to review your registration. So all of the steps that we have discussed thus far, that last stage will allow you to review the information you have entered. And I urge you to use that last step and really review your registration information for accuracy, as it will prevent delay of your score report and possibly will assure that the issuance of licensure will not be delayed. Okay, so we have now discussed the information about how to register for the test and what information is useful to have before and after. Now, what is actually on the test? So there are a few key questions that one may want to ask when preparing to do the test. So one obvious thing is that we all need to know what's on the test. And that information is available to you in a lot of detail, and it's key to review that information. Then you'll want to know, what do I already know? Or what do you need to learn? And then finally, how you can do the best. Let's pull up the MTLE website again. Okay. So as you're preparing to take the test, you want to click on the obvious tab that's called Prepare and see what's available to us here. So remember, again, the first thing that we would want to know is what is on the test. What is the test structure? So review some basic or general information that's available on the page first, such as test taking strategies that apply to all of the tests. After you have done that, select the test for which you are preparing. So we talked about Minnesota and SAE, so it should be different tests. Let's suppose you are preparing to take a pedagogy, elementary pedagogy test. Let's see. So we find ourselves on the page for this particular test. Again, the test taking strategies is available to you here. Very useful strategies apply to all of the tests. Then we have some test content and sample questions. So here you're viewing what we call a test framework with the test design. So you can see how many subtests are included on the test. There are 2. What kind of questions are on the test, whether they're multiple choice or there may be a constructed response or open-ended questions. It's good to know what kind of questions to expect on the test so that you can adequately prepare for them. The number of questions in each subtest, the expected duration of the subtest, if there are any reference materials available or required, they would be listed here for this particular test to run on. And then sample items. We'll take a look at the sample items in a minute, but first you take a look at the subtest content. So for subtest 1, it's about half and half. Half is dedicated to the sub-area called student development and learning, and the other half is learning environment. For the subtest 2, it's also about half and half. One half for instruction and assessment, and the other for professional roles and responsibilities. So if you are studying to take the subtest 1, it's a great idea to review the information that will be included in that sub-area. And here you have the descriptive statement, the statement in bold, and also the sub-bullets, the more specific descriptive statements underneath that sub-area. And this information is really key for preparing. Of course, it's not going to tell you exactly the questions that are on the test, that is just your information, but that describes the content that is being assessed by the test, and that is really key. So when you're studying, you're going to want to have that readily available at your side to make sure that you're studying the appropriate content for the test. And you will find in many cases that the content on the test has been covered at some point in your educative preparation history. Okay. So once you have carefully reviewed the test framework, the sub-area, and the descriptive statements underneath, you may take a look at the sample items. So those are the sample items that will be included on that subset. It's a great preparation tool. It's a great learning strategy to take a careful look at the sample items. But please do keep in mind that the sample items, that they will not appear on, this particular items will not appear on the test. And they don't represent a full range of skills needed in order to pass the test. They're just samples. At the same time, they are indicative of type of questions that will be on the test. They will all have each have 4 multiple choice options. The stem of the question will be similar in length and structure. And the actual content of the questions, of course, is going to be similar to what's actually going to be on the test. So please take full advantage of those free test preparation materials available to you. And the answer key is right down below so that you can check your answers. Okay. So this information here is all part of a free study guide. That information is available for most, if not all, of the tests. Let's take a look at another test. Let's say physics. Test concepts and sample questions. And here we are. You see how this information is presented here. Knowing how the test is structured really helps you tailor your studying. So you'll notice that, for example, on the subtest one of the business tests, finance, accounting, and computation received a heavier weight than the other tests and sub-areas. So you may want to spend a little bit more time on that concept. Of course, you know yourself better, and if you know that business organization and management is something that you need to study up on, by all means, spend a little bit more time on that. Okay. So what other information is available to us free of charge that we can use to study for the test? Test preparation worksheet. After you have reviewed the test content and sample questions, and you are well familiar with the test-taking strategies, you may find one of these documents useful. The test preparation worksheet and mapping test content to courses taken worksheet. So let's take a look at this. Notice how the Microsoft Word version is also available to you there, so you can edit it on your computer. Some basic information that you can fill out for yourself. Again, this is just for your own test preparation purposes. You don't need to submit it back to us or to your professor. This is just a tool that is made available to you in case you find it useful. Mapping test content to courses taken worksheet. So you can use this document as the name implies to map the test framework to the courses taken. As is shown on the table here, you can pick the test that you are preparing for. This example shows middle-level social studies. Take the information about this other areas, again available to you in the free study guide that we just looked at. And then here you can list out courses that you have taken up to date that relate to that test content. And I'm sure you'll find that a lot of the sub-areas content has been covered previously in your courses. So that will allow you to quickly reference the materials that you need to reference. You can leave the boxes blank to indicate that the content has not been covered. And that way you will know that you should probably study up on that concept if it hasn't been introduced to you before. I find it a helpful study organization tool. So going back, there are also some videos and tutorials There's a how to prepare for your teacher licensure test video. I encourage you to take a look at it. It is not test specific, but it's very useful if you haven't taken that many licensure tests in the past, or if you have a bit of test anxiety. It will calm you, it will prepare you for what to expect. You may also take a look at the Pearson Professional Center store. So when you show up at the center, it's not gonna feel as if it's your first time there if you had seen the interactive tour before. Computer-based testing tutorials is also available to you. Again, if you are used to taking paper and pencil tests, or if you are just not that comfortable taking a test on the computer, please feel free to take advantage of this tutorial available to you here. It will make you feel better prepared, and you will feel like you can actually focus on the content of the test as opposed to the mechanics of doing it on a computer. We'll talk about test results later on in our presentation. Also note that if you choose, there are some fee-based preparation study guide materials available to you for most of the tests. There are expanded study guides. And then there's also a practice test that you can purchase. Okay. So we had talked about what's on the test. We had talked about various strategies you can use to figure out what it is that you already know and what it is that you need to learn. We talked about how you can do your best and how you can alleviate some of the possible test anxiety that you may have. This is where to find those preparation materials. Again, you have an option. You can click on the Prepare up top here, or you can click on the lower right corner here where all of the preparation materials are listed. This is just a little bit more information about how to map framework content to test item and content. We talked about that. And that will allow you, again, to identify those knowledge gaps. And after those knowledge gaps have been identified, the next step is to perhaps review them with your advisor or classmates, or just review your reference books. I'm sure you have plenty of textbooks to review, and there's a lot of information available freely on the internet that you may find useful for it. There are plenty of additional resources you may identify. State and national standards and curriculum documents are also helpful. Remember that the MTLE tests have been created to match the state and national standards. So it's always a good idea to stay up to date on what those standards are, because this information is public and can be easily accessed. Of course, academic journals or publications from the national organizations in particular fields. Taking additional courses like the Educator Prep program, of course, is another option to brush up on the skills that you need to brush up on. Okay. So we have discussed up until now how to register for the test, what's on the test, and what one needs to start. So how can one do their best? Creating a study plan and scheduling, of course, that's always a good idea. So after you have figured out what it is that you need to study in order to do your best, and you have identified the resources that you need to locate, and you have decided on whether you're going to use the sample questions available on the website, or if you will be purchasing a fee-based study guide or practice test, the next step is just to plan a bit. So it's always it tends to be a good idea for some people, I shouldn't say always, to work backwards. So once you have registered for the test and you can schedule the test date, let's say hypothetically it's December 15th, you may want to work backwards from that date in your study technique. So just working backwards, you may want to develop strategies for developing a certain skill. You may want to put down the exact content areas that you need to study, the date 2024 when you want to study them, the strategy of how you're planning on doing that, and then the status, so that you can go back and update the table as you're working. Again, use the study guide throughout the process. It's not to be used just at the beginning when you're choosing, when you have decided that you will be taking the test, but it's a good idea to revisit it occasionally. The study guides contain information about the structure and the content of the test, the test framework, and the test taking strategies. All of that is really available to you on the website, so please do take advantage of it. So let's review. What can one do in order to do their best? Of course, review the preparation materials available on the website. Identify content that needs to be brushed up on. Identify resources. It may be a while, it may have been a while since you referred to that particular textbook, so locate that textbook or class notes or whatever publications you may find useful. Create a cumulative study plan and schedule, that table that we had just looked at. And then focus on the content areas where you don't feel confident. Of course, if it makes you a little nervous, if you're looking at that content area, you're thinking, I really don't remember much about it, it's a good idea to focus on that particular content area. But don't forget to review the other sub-areas also. Try to be as resourceful as you can using the study aids and reviewing the test material perhaps with a faculty member or study groups or classmates. And try to form connections between the ideas and not just memorize. So again, reviewing the Pearson Professional Center tour, you may find that helpful so that you know what to expect. You'll be already somewhat familiar with the environment when you show up there, and that will just calm you down a bit and make you better prepared emotionally to take the test. There's also a computer-based testing tutorial that I mentioned. The CBT tutorial is web-based. You don't need to download any special applications in order to run it. It is available on the MTLE website. It will allow you to navigate through the test and select your answers and figure out how to end the test. So you don't have to spend time kind of teaching yourself right there on the spot on how to take the test on the computer. So a couple of questions to ask yourself before the test. If you have obtained and reviewed the framework, really I can now emphasize it and now that is really your go-to guide. If you had completed most or all of the applicable coursework, if you had developed a study plan and schedule, and if you had completed the virtual tour and the computer-based testing tutorial. So you can use this as a checklist for whether you're ready to test. And as always, when you're there and you're sitting for the test, remember to read and follow all directions carefully and read each question carefully. Do not rush. You have enough time to read the questions carefully, to read the instructions carefully, to just continue on and not pause, but at the same time, give it the appropriate time. Try to pace your work. For tests that have constructive response assignments or open-ended or essay assignments, please make sure to read carefully and respond fully to all portions of the assignment. And make sure that your response meets the performance characteristics that are always available to you in test directions and on the MTLE website. So now let's take a look at the score report. So suppose you have taken the test, and suppose just for the illustration's sake that you didn't pass. You will receive a score report, and you can use that score report to really target your preparation strategies for the future. You can really make sure that you're prepared to retake the test using the information that you had received on your score report. Let's see. And again, I'm on the MTLE website. You can arrive on this page by clicking on the score and then understanding your test results. There are sample PDF documents here that are annotated score reports. So let's take a look at the examples. Let's say, for example, the Minnesota Math AAS. This is a sample report that you will receive. The actual information aside, the report will look exactly like this. And here, note how you can see what each column represents. So you have your subtest status, information on whether you passed or didn't pass a particular subtest, your subtest score, what the passing score is, the subtest diagnostic information. Now, this is really key for somebody who would like to retake the test. So the more pluses you receive, the better you did on that particular sub-area. We call them the performance indices. They provide information on your performance on each multiple choice sub-area and constructive response assignment. And they can actually be used to help you assess your strengths and weaknesses. So the fewer stars per sub-area, the more time you should spend studying up on it. The passing status summary report that will be available for a multi-subtest assessment, such as the Minnesota Math AAS. And this section outlines each subtest you have passed to date and the date you passed the subtest. If you have taken a subtest but did not pass it, it will note not passed. If you haven't yet taken the subtest, it will be noted as not taken. So when you're registering for the test, you will also have an option of choosing to receive the score report in your email. And I would advise that you select yes on that option. And that way you will have your score report available to you in case you will need to retake the exam. You could really tailor your studying. Or even in case it's just that if you pass, you'll still want to know how exactly you did on each of the sub-area. After you've invested all the time and effort into preparing for the test, you'll want to know exactly how you did. And you may refer to your score report just for that. Here you see you also have the detailed performance analysis, the competency level reporting. The section provides information at the competency level for the multiple choice and for the constructive responses. So you will know the number of questions on the test and the percent of them that you answered correctly. Okay. So again, those annotated score reports are available for all of the tests, but they're different types. So there's one for Minnesota Math AAS, there's one for tests with multiple choice questions only, and then for the world language test, there's a separate annotated score report. So depending on which test you're taking or planning to take, you will refer to different annotated score reports. There's also a score report explanation available here. And here you will find the definition of the performance indices that we just saw. So what does that mean to receive 4 stars? What does that mean to receive just 1 star or plus sign, whatever you want to call them. Also, if you receive a B on the constructive response, you'll know what that means. That's where you would go to for definition of all of those symbols that you may encounter in your score report. Okay. So, of course, after you've read your score report and you've really carefully reviewed it and reviewed the annotated score report that's available on the website, the next thing to do is to revisit the test objectives and go back to the test framework, go back to the free study guide, and brush up on the areas that you did poorly on. Okay. So the final thing that I wanted to mention is, of course, the contact information. Cool. So if you go on the home page, the contact us page, you will see that depending on what exact question you have, if it's about registration, then please contact us using the information provided here. You may email using the email communication form, or you can call, or you can actually even live chat that is available to us now. Okay. If you have questions about licensure requirements, you may contact Minnesota Board of Teaching. The information is available to you here. Okay, so this is the contact us page. Now we have a few minutes left. If you have any questions and you'd like me to address them right away, please go ahead and send me a chat. If you prefer, you may email me the question. Let me provide my email address on this page here. Doesn't seem like folks have any questions. Again, please feel free to email me any questions about the webinar or use the contact us page for specific tailored questions about the MTLE program. Please fill out a short 5-minute post-webinar survey that you will receive in your thank you email after the webinar has been completed. Doesn't seem like there are any questions that folks would like to address now. So I'll go ahead and close the webinar, and thank you very much for listening in, and best of luck on your test. Thank you. Bye-bye.